Welcome back, guys. Hope you are doing great. Well, this is our day 7 of our project series. So far, we have completed our 6 days of our project series journey. So if you haven't watched any of that series before, so don't worry, guys. I dropped the playlist link in the description below, and I will strongly recommend you to go ahead and watch from day 1 to day 6 until whatever we build so far, right? So in the day 7 series, so we are going to build the main functionality of this website, which is going to be our player component. So we are going to design and this player component over here, which you are looking at here currently. So if I hit this play button, it will start playing the songs, and you can adjust the songs audio, and you can play mute. If you unmute it will start playing the songs, right? And if you click this, it will pause immediately. All right, and we are going to build a very smart player which is going to play these songs. Currently we are in the home screen, which is going to play only these songs right after one after another. And right now I am at the end of the songs list. If I click this next option, it will immediately jump to the first song in our list. So if you look at here, now it will jumps back to the first list. And if I click back, right now I'm here, and if I click back, you can see it immediately jump to the end of the list. And as the same way, this player can adapt to the list of songs. Right now, if I am in the favorites, right, if I jump to the favorites, and if I'm playing the songs from here, so this player will understand that it's playing the songs from the favorites, so it will needs to play only the songs which comes under this list. And now if I click this, you can see it's loading the song. If I click next, it's loading this one. And if I click this, it's loading the song from here. And if I click next, again it will jump back to the very first song. So that's how we are going to design a very smart player completely from the ground, right? So that's what we are going to finish in this session. And the next one and only important thing that we have to complete in this project series is our project membership, and that we will finish in the upcoming session. So without wasting your time, let's jump into the video. All right, then, so let's load up our song, our local project, which is it's already up and running. Let me make sure. Yes, it's already up and running. So I'm going to close all these things. All right, so first, what we have to do is we have to create a player control hook. So I'm going to create a new hook. So let me minimize everything. Let me get into hooks folder, and I'm going to create a new file over here called use player.ts. So this is the file which is going to have the state which is necessary for our player component, right? So import, I'm going to import from the Sucent. I'm going to import this create. Okay, so then right after here, I'm going to create an interface. So interface player store, and which is going to have IDs, the list of IDs, and which is going to be the string array. Then we're going to have the active ID, and which is going to be the optional. Okay, and it should be a string. Then I need to have a function called set ID, which helps me to update that specific active ID, and which is going to be a function, and it's going to return a void. And this function is going to take an ID as a string object, right? Then of course I need to have one more function called set IDs, which is going to set all the list of these IDs in that function, so that the player can understand which particular ID needs to be loaded right after that. So set IDs, open this, and that is also going to be returning a void. And this function is going to have a list of IDs, which is going to be a string, and of course it's going to be an array. And finally, I'm going to have one more function which is going to reset our entire player, which is going to have nothing as a parameter. So save it. And then now let's create const use player is equals to create, using this type, the very specific type player store, and it's going to be a function. And inside here, I'm going to call a callback function, which is going to return a value. And here I'm going to return a parameter called set. And inside here, initially it's going to have the IDs as an empty array. Then active ID, which is going to be initially as an undefined initially. Then set ID is a function which is going to take the ID as a string type, and of course it's going to return. So using this set, I'm gonna set this active ID with the ID. All right, then set IDs, it's going to be a function which is going to take this IDs as a parameter, as a string array type. And of course this is going to be a callback function, and it's going to have set function. Using this set, I'm going to update these IDs. I'm going to update this IDs, which is going to be the IDs which I'm supplying inside this function IDs. Then right after that, I'm going to reset this function. So it's going to be a reset, a callback function, and set. Using this set, I'm going to update the rest of the objects here. IDs, it's going to be an empty, and an active ID, of course, it's going to be the undefined. Right, so these are the functions that we are and the states which is necessary for our player. We are making the ID initially as an empty ID, and active ID initially it's going to be undefined. Whenever I'm calling the set ID, I'm going to pass ID into this function, and that will be assigned to our active ID. And set IDs, I'm going to pass the multiple IDs, and that will be updated to our IDs array. And then reset, which is going to reset this complete object, right? So this is what that function's respective role. And I'm going to export default. It's going to be use player, right? This is what we have to export. Save these changes. Now what I have to do is I have to bring the player component. So let's go ahead and create a new component inside the components folder and name that as player.tsx, right? So now this player.tsx should be our client side component. So use client and sfc, and I'm going to make sure it's a player and it's need to be rendered player. So save these things, and I need to bring it into our layout component. I'm going to inside the app and open our layout, and right after this where we can load our main container, I'm going to bring our player, make sure that is imported from add components / player. So save these changes. Once it's successfully saved, so we should get this component over here. You can see we having the player component at the very bottom over here, okay, which means it's successfully loaded, right? So now what I have to do is so inside this player component, so I need to bring all the necessary things, and I need to load the songs. I need to load the song by ID. So if you notice here, we're having this active ID. Based on the active ID, I need to fetch the song details from the Supabase, right? So let's go here inside the player component, and this player component is going to have const player. It's going to have this use player controls completely. From where? From hat hooks player. Save these changes, and now based on that particular, the player have the active ID, right? It's an optional parameter. If there is an active ID, then we need to fetch it. If not, we don't need to fetch it. So based on that active ID, I need to fetch the song. So what I'm going to do is I'm going inside one more time to the hooks folder. I'm going to create a new hook called use get song by id.ts. So basically we are trying to fetch a song based on our ID property, which we are having inside our from our player active ID, right? So over here, what I'm going to do is const, okay, or we can simply say sfc use get song by ID, and inside here, which is going to have ID as an optional, and which is going to be a string type, right? And so don't worry about this return statements and all those things. Inside this return, we'll worry about this return statement later. But right now, inside here, I'm going to create a different states to store the loading and store the song information, which we are trying to fetch the details from the database. So use state is equals, first we are going to create the loading state. Is loading is going to be the false. Then I need to store the song information. So use state song, which is going to be set song, and it's going to be undefined, and it should have the type as the song type. So it should have the song type which we having from our add types. So now it shows the undefined as an error. Either it should be a song type or it should be an undefined. So by that way, we can ignore that issue, right? Then I need to get the Supabase client. So I need to fetch the details. So const of use session context, which is provided from our auth helpers React. So bring our custom type at the end, keep this like this in this ordered way, right? Then over here, I'm going to get the Supabase client. So using the Supabase client, we can fetch the details, and I'm going to get the use effect hook inside in it, which is going to have an array of dependencies, right? So basically this array of dependencies need to keep on follow our ID and as well as our Supabase client. Whenever there is a changes, it's need to be re-rendered. And here, if I don't have ID, I just need to return it, right? So if there is an ID, then what I'm going to do, set this loading is going to be true. I'm going to change the loading state as true. And if the state is changed successfully, then of course now we need to fetch the song. So fetch song is equals to asynchronous. It should be an asynchronous function. Okay, make sure it's an asynchronous function. And inside this fetch song, now what I'm going to do is, which is going to be const, and it's going to return the data and as well as the error object equals to await. Using the Supabase client, I'm going to get the details, song details from the songs table. Make sure that's a table name. It's perfectly the same thing. So it's better to copy your table name, or if you don't misspell it, that's super cool. Fine. It's better. I'm going to copy and paste it to avoid any unwanted mistakes. So from these songs, I'm going to select. So dot select, open it. Let me enable the word wrap so you can see everything in the single screen. So I'm going to select everything. And along with this, I do have the artist informations, right? So I need to fetch the information from artist table too. So I'm going to copy this artist, copy. Then I need to fetch everything from the artist table too. That's a relational table informations. Then I just need to say dot equal. It should equals to the ID, this particular ID field, whichever ID I'm passing. Then I need to fetch that single song information, right? So save this change. Now we have this error, so don't worry because of this return statement. Currently, I'm just going to return it as something like this. Okay, otherwise what we can do is we can simply return a div so far. Why it is showing an error? Okay, so let's ignore it for the time being. We will fix this issue. Okay, so let's ignore it. So I don't save it so far. So here, this is the place we are fetching the single song information, right? So if that is the song, then if that is an error, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say set is loading as a false. Then I just need to write an error. So toast.error, I'm going to send that error message as an alert on the screen, right? If there is a song, then I just need to say set song. I'm going to set the song data at what specific type as the song type. That's a song which we are fetching from our database. Then set is loading as false, right? And finally, at last, at the end, I need to fetch this song. I need to call this function. So fetch the song, right? And as the return, I just need to send the song outside. So I'm going to use this use memo hook. So this memo hook will only recompute the memorized value when one of the depths has been changed, right? So we are using the use memo. So if the ID is changed, then the song is going to be changed, then the value is going to be changed. Otherwise, the song, everything is going to be the same. So that's the reason we are using these use memo hook over here to memorize our value. And it's going to have a callback function, have a value inside in it. It's going to return an array, the object. And at the end, it should have the array dependency. And inside here, what are the values that we are trying to return? Is loading, that's the value, and along with the song. And at the end, I'm going to do the same. It's loading. It's need to monitor every time whenever the state changes of these both values. This is the value that we are trying to return. Now the error is gone. If you save it entirely, it will be saved successfully. So now if you have an active ID and if you're passing that active ID into this hook, it should fetch the details from our database. So let's refresh it and let's make sure there is no error so far. So currently there is no issue, and I can see I do have this player component which is loaded over there, right? Perfect. Now let's get back to the player component, and now inside this player component I need to fetch the song. So const get the song object from where use get song by ID, open it, and I need to supply the ID into it. So from the player I'm going to get that active ID and I'm going to pass it. So that is going to return me the song. And even if you want the loading also, you can get the loading state. So currently over here I'm not going to use the loading state, I just need that song information, right? So what we need to do is then right after here, once you have the song, now just like the same way for the image what we did, we use a separate hook to load our artist image and as well as our song image. You can see load the song image to get the public URL of the song. In order to do that, for getting that song, so if you check over here, go to any songs, and that song is having only your path name. So using that path name, I need to fetch that audio file public URL. To do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new hook to load the song. So let's go here, create one more hook called use load song.ts, right? Inside here, now what I have to do is I'm just going to say sfc, and it's going to be use load song. All right, fine. Okay, so this is not going to return anything so far. Let me delete that statement, and here I need to get the song. So this use load song is going to receive a song which is going to be the type of song which is coming from our particular type, and I need to get the Supabase client object from where, from use Supabase client. So Supabase client is equals to use Supabase client from React auth helpers. All right, then right after here, next what I need to do, I need to, if there is no song, then I just need to return an empty string. All right, if there is a song, then what I have to do, const get the data and as well as the error from where, from await. Okay, we are just getting it from the storage, so we don't need to use an await. So super client dot storage, from the storage dot from, we are going to access this songs bucket. From the songs bucket, I'm going to get the public URL, and from where, from the loaded song, I'm going to access that public URL from this URL. This is the path name. I need to supply that path name to this public URL, and that is going to return the public URL in this data. So I need to get the error object. Oh, my bad. I don't need the error object. I just need the data, and I'm going to return this data as the song data, something like this, right? So, and right after here, what I need to do, I need to return that song data. So I'm just going to return that song data dot public URL. So this is the hook which is going to return that loaded song data public URL, right? Save these changes. Let's get back to our player.tsx. And now what I need to do, I need to get the public URL from our song which we have over here. So const song URL, which is going to be use load song, and I need to supply the song inside here. And you might notice here we are getting an error. It's saying that argument song, it either be a song type or it might be an undefined. So in order to fix this issue, I just need to add an exclamatory sign at the end, so that will be fixed instantly. The reason why, it's because we are getting that issue because there is a chance of song getting an undefined. That's the reason we are adding that exclamatory sign at the end, right? And we need to protect our player even if I don't have song, if not song, or if I don't have the song URL, or if I don't have the player.active ID, right? In that case, I just need to return null. I don't need to return our player because we don't want to return our player component every single time. If any one of this data is missing, then of course we need to return this, right? So make sure that you added the not sign before every single of them, right? If it is say so, now if I save this changes, okay, so you can see now we can't see our player component over here. The reason is because we don't have any active ID, right? So I'm just going to comment this, save it, so then only I can see the component over here, right? So now I'm just going to make sure this should take the class name, this should take fixed, it should be always fixed at the bottom 0. Then bg, of course, it's going to be black, and the backdrop, of course, it's going to be blur medium, and width, of course, it's going to be full, py, it's going to be 2, and px, it's going to be 4. Inside here, instead of this player text, what I'm going to do, I'm going to load the player content, right? So I'm going to create one more component, and let me create that player content, and I'm going to create this inside our components folder .tsx, right? Make sure that is .tsx, and inside this player content, make sure that this is as a client component, use client, and sfc player content div player content. Save these changes, and let's import that player content over here. So that should render our player content inside here, right? So now we have all our player content, and this player content need a props, right? So it's going to load the song, and as well as it should load the song URL. So we need to pass the song and song URL into it, right? So far we successfully created the respective hooks in order to maintain the player and in order to maintain the songs details and everything, right? So now let's go ahead and start customizing our player component, and that's what we are going to do next. All right then, so now let's go ahead and start customizing our player content component. So this player content component need to have our song and as well as the song URL. So let's go ahead and create our respective props first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create interface over here, and let's say player content props, open it, and that is going to receive a song prop, which is going to be a type of a song type. Then it should be a song URL. Of course, it's going to be a string type, right? And those things needs to be passed to this component. So react dot functional component, which is going to have a type of our player content props, and it's going, let's extract our props song comma song URL into our component. Save these changes. Now let's make sure you can see everything in the single screen. And here for this player content, I need to supply the respective objects over here. So now for the song, of course, I do have the song in my hand, so supply the song. Then for the song URL, I need to supply the song URL, which I do have in the variable called song URL. Then I need to supply the key. So for the key, let's supply the song URL as the song key itself. Why we are getting the error? Okay, so I'm getting an error. I'm not sure why I'm getting this error over here. Okay, so if there is no song, so if I disable this, then if there is no song, then of course this error will be ignored. So that's the thing, the error will be ignored. So now all we have to do is we have to load this song. So that's what we are going to do now. So let's go ahead and I will save these changes, and now you can't see any of your player content. But what I need to do is I need to load this song. So let's go ahead and load that song first. All right then, so in order to get our song component, so what I need to do is I need to create a custom hook to manage whether the song is playing or not. Only if the song is playing, we need to get that component. Once it's loaded the song, once the song is being loaded, we can manage pause or play options. But initially the player component is not going to be. But when I click this, you can see if I click this, I need to bring my player component. So in order to do that, I'm going to create a new hook. It's going to be use on play.ts, right? So this, it's going to be SFC. I'm just going to say use on play. All right, make sure this as the capital. All right, so then what I need to do is, and this is going to be empty so far, and here I need to get our player first. So const player, which is going to be use player from our custom hook. And right, then I need to get our auth model. So only the authenticated user can listen to our songs. So auth model is equals to use auth model. Get that. All right, then I need to get the user informations along const equals to use user from our custom hook, and I'm going to get our user detail user. All right, so then now we have all the necessary informations, and inside here I'm going to create a function called onPlay, which is going to take the ID as a string type. All right, if I don't have the user object, if not user, return auth model dot on open. So we are going to open the auth model so the user can authenticate himself, then he can load that songs and listen to the music, right? Then right after that, player, from the player I'm just going to set this active ID. So set ID, which is going to be the ID which I'm passing to this onPlay function. Then set player dot set IDs. So right, the reason why we are setting the IDs, so currently if I'm clicking this song, so you can see this is the first song of this list of songs. So along with this list, I need to load all these songs list. In case if I'm inside the favorites, what I need to do, if I click the favorite songs, the very first song of our favorites, then I need to load our entire favorite songs, right? You can see if I click this song, it's need to load the entire list of our favorites, right? That's the reason. So set ID, so open it. Now what I need to do is, this use play is going to have the list of songs. So songs, which is going to be the type of song array. So we are going to get the songs type of array from there. So using that songs list, so I'm going to pass the songs list, and I'm going to use the map function, and I'm going to get one by one song from it. Then I need to return the ID of each of the songs into this. All right, that's what we are going to do over here. Now, once this onPlay function is finished, of course, I need to return this onPlay function. Make sure that's a caps lock. So return onPlay. And at the end, you should export the default value. So let's recall what we have done over here. So we created a use onPlay hook, and it's going to take the parameter as a list of songs as a song type as an array. And we are getting our player object from this hook, and we are getting the auth model instance from this hook, and we are getting the user object from this user hook, and we are creating a function called onPlay, which is going to take the ID, and that ID, and every time whenever you're clicking onPlay, we need to make sure that the user is authenticated. If not, we are going to return the auth model, so that will brings the authentication model, so the user can get authenticated. After that, I'm going to set this player ID, so whatever the ID which I passed into it, if I click this particular song ID will be passed, and that will be marked as the active ID. And then whenever I click this, I'm going to get this, I do have the songs array, and I'm going to pass that songs array also inside here, and I'm going to get all those IDs, and I'm going to pass it into that at the IDs array, so that we can play the songs which comes inside this list. Right, so that's what this use onPlay hook it's been looking for, right? So right after that, now what I need to do is I need to load this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get, so right now we are inside the favorites, right? So let me get to the favorites. So where it is app, and I'm going inside the favorites, and let me go inside the page content. This is the place where we are having our songs and everything. So right after here, what I need to do is I need to const on play, I'm gonna get that instance is equals to use on play, and it's expecting the songs, so list of songs, so we pass that songs over here. Now what I need to do is, so after this, now what I have to do is I have to get back to this media items. This is the place where we are loading this entire media item. So this on click, it's going to have the ID. Of course, it's having the ID. So we can get that ID from where? We can get that ID from, I'm going to pass this ID inside here, ID colon string, right? And I'm going to pass that, and I'm going to use that ID by on play. Not this is going to be, sorry, on play, open it, then I need to supply the ID inside here, right? So that's what this it's going to be. All right, so let's make sure everything is working fine. Let's see, save these changes and let me refresh it one more time. All right, so now we are refreshed it. Cool. And now if I click this, look at that, I'm getting the player content right now. So if I refresh it one more time, okay, so currently there is no active ID, so that's the reason the player component is not loading. But if I click this song or this song right now, you can see we have ourselves that component is being loaded because this ID is being paused over there, so that's the reason it's working over here. Now what I have to do is to have to do the same stuff for inside the search page, because inside the search also we are displaying the list of songs, right? So let's get into the search component over here, and then yeah, right after here I'm going to get, where is that page content? I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it right after here, and I'm going to import this. Okay, and as well as I'm going to copy this action, on click action, and I'm going to paste it straight away over here. Save these changes, and let's go ahead and do the same stuff for what? For our home page also, because inside the home also we are loading the songs. So page content right over here. So what I'm going to do right after here, I'm going to import this, use on play, then I'm going to supply that on click function just like the same way what I did over here. Save these changes. All right, fine. I think that's so far so good. So now all we have to do is to go ahead and start customizing our player content. Where is our player content? Okay, let me close everything, close all, and let me open the player content. So this is the one right now we are going to customize. All right, so let's go ahead and start customizing our player content. All right then, so now what we are going to do is we are going to customize our song content over here. So right, because the song is playing, and if I open my player component, so player component, you might wonder, so we are using the key over here. Usually we use the key prop only when we are using an array, right? But here we are using the key prop. So the reason why we are using the key prop over here, it's because the key will make sure every time whenever this component is being destroyed, it's going to reload the entire component with the new data, right? So that's the reason we are using the key prop as our song URL. So every time whenever the song is being playing, each time the player component key is going to be different, and the player component will be destroyed and loaded again with the new songs whenever I'm clicking next or previous data. So that's the reason we are using the key prop over here. Instead of loading the same component again and again, we're going to destroy it whenever I click the next, skip next or previous, and I'm going to reload the entire player component, right? So that's the reason over here we are using the key prop, right? Now let's move into the player content. We successfully passed the song and song URL into our player component. So let's start customizing this. So the player content over here, it's going to be a grid which is going to display the media informations. So if you look at here, you can see this is the same media which we designed over here, and we having this desktop control. If I make this responsive, we can see, and we have the control for our mobile screens too, right? So let's go ahead and start creating that. So to do that, what I have to do, let's jump into our player content section, and over here let's add the class name, which is going to be the grid, and grid column, it's going to be two different columns usually for mobile screen. And from the medium device onwards, grid column, it's going to be let's keep it as 3 column, because we need to bring the volume option when we are having loaded the site in the desktop view, right? So I'm gonna create as a 3 column, right? So let's fix this. All right. And inside here, so this media item, this is the media item component. This media item is also loading the artist detail over here. So whenever, if you want to use this artist items, of course I need to bring the artist, I need to load the artist, right? So that we have to keep that in mind, because we need to load the artist details inside the client. So that's the reason we already created one more custom hook to load the artist details in the client side component, which is, I think, use get artist on the client. This is the custom hook to fetch the artist details on the client side, right? So we have to use that. So first division, which is going to be div, which is going to be class name, and of course it should be width full, it should take the entire width, and flex, okay, justify in the starting position, and item, everything should be in the starting position inside here. Now what I have to do, now I have to bring the media item. So let me bring the media item, which is coming from our media item component, and inside this media item component I need to supply the class name. I'm going to make, because it's currently having this background, I'm going to remove that background, so BG transparent, and width, it's going to be automatic, whatever the width available, it should take that available width. And for this on click, okay, for this on click, currently for this, whenever you are clicking over here, it's going to load the song. So I don't want to do it right now over here, because it is already inside the player. So I'm just going to keep it as empty. And for this artist detail, I need to supply the artist information. So that's the reason what I'm going to do is I have to fetch the artist informations from where? From our custom hook. So let me get the player also. So const player is equals to use player hook, then const I need to get some of the objects from where use get artist client side, and which is going to return a list of objects like artist as an array, and it's going to return the state is loading, and I'm going to keep this as artist loading. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, if this artist is loading, so because you know that we are trying to fetch the detail of the artist from the client side. So every time whenever you are trying to load the artist detail, so it's going to make some delay effects over there. So in order, it will take some time to load the artist detail from the client side. In order to avoid that, if the artist is loading, I'm going to return, instead of returning the player component, I'm going to return this following division class name, which is going to be flex, width full, and height is going to be 20, and everything should be in the center, and justify in the center. And inside here I'm going to bring the puff loader, which is coming from the React spinners, and the color code, which is going to be hash 10b981, and the size, of course, it's going to be 40, right? In case every time whenever you're loading the artist details, it's going to show that issue. So don't worry, we're having some issues over here, right? So if you have the artist details, right now we do have the artist details. What I'm going to do is artist dot filter. I'm going to filter that artist, because I need to send the artist item. So I'm going to get one by one artist from in that, and I'm going to get that artist id should be equals to song, the loaded song dot artist id. If it is say so, then I need to return that particular object as an artist. Then I need to send the data property. I need to send the data property data, and that is going to be the song which we already have. So save these changes. Now you can see initially it was displaying that loading animation over there, right? I think you noticed it. Now if I click this, you can see it's taking that loading animation and it's bringing that songs details and it's displaying that song details over here. Looks good, right? So far we successfully did it, right? Now what I have to do is, let's go here, and right after this, first we are going to design the mobile container view. So we are going to bring the mobile container view. So right after this division, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring the mobile controller. So let's add some comment, and right after here, div class name flex, and from the medium device it should be hidden, right? And the column, of course, it should be auto, and justify everything at the end, and item should be everything in the center. Enter. And inside this division I'm going to create one more division which is going to have a class name, right? So that is going to be this outside layer, right? So for the class name, so this height, of course, it's going to be 10, and width is also going to be 10, right? And everything should be in the center. So flex item center, justify center, rounded, of course, it's going to be full, and bg, of course, it's going to be white, and padding, it's going to be 1, and cursor, it's going to be pointer. And inside here I just need to bring the icon, whatever the icon, whether if it is playing, I need to display the play. If it is pause, I need to display the pause. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a local variable at the top over here. So const icon, initially I'm just going to keep it as a true. If it is true, I need to display the pause icon because it is already playing, right? So for pause, if it is not, I need to display the play icon for play, right? So icon, now we can see the icon, it's going to render that icon, right? So that icon needs to be displayed, and the class name, it's going to have the class name property, and it's going to be the text black color, and the size, it's going to be 20. Save these changes. Now you should get this icon over here. Look at that, because currently you can see it is true because it's assumed it was playing, and you can see it's showing this particular pause icon. If not, it will display this play icon, right? And when you expand this, it is not going to render this because we are right now in the desktop mode. So let's go ahead and start customize the desktop mode, and later we'll change that state. Instead of hard coding as true, we'll change it to a state, right? So here, this is going to be the desktop controller, and here what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a div, and this is going to be a class name. This should be hidden on the mobile screen. Height, of course, it could be full. From the medium device onwards, it should be displayed. So flex, so justify center, and everything should be in the center. And width is going to be full, and the maximum width, max width, it's going to be a very custom width, which is going to be the 720 pixels, because that's the maximum width. Okay, I'm going to fix that maximum width as 720 pixels, and gap x, it's going to be 6. And inside this division, I'm gonna bring two different this icons, forward, back, and next. And I'm going to, so here what I'm going to do is let's make this FA backward step icon. That's the icon name that we are going to use. And here size, of course, we are going to make it as 20. And then right after that, we're going to bring the on click event, because we need the on click, and currently I'm going to keep it as an empty. Then, and for this, I'm going to have the class name. Text is going to be neutral, 400, and cursor, of course, it's going to be pointer. On hover, I'm just going to make it text color as the white, text white, and we need to have the transition. So save the changes. Now you should get that backward step icon, right? And I'm going to copy this one more time, and I'm going to change this to forward step. Save the changes. Now you should get this. and I need to bring the icon, copy this icon from here. And of course we need to have an on click event also for this, so I'm just going to have that on click event. Currently it's going to be an empty on click event, later we will change it. And I'm going to copy this and I'm going to keep it in between over here, save these changes. Now you should get that the options for this desktop controller option. And at the end, if you notice here, you can see we have to bring this volume control. So let's go ahead and bring that volume control, and that's what we are going to do next. All right then, so now let's go ahead and start designing the volume controller. So in order to get that volume controller, so what I have to do is to okay, so this is the place where our section is being desktop controller. Our section, it's been finishing over here, so that's the last one. This is going to be our volume section, right? So because we divided into 3 columns, right? So in the volume section, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a div, and which is going to have a class name, right? So the class name, which is going to be hidden, it should be hidden on the mobile screen, and it should be displayed on the medium screens, right? Flex. And everything should be aligned at the end, justified at the end. Of course it should use the complete width. Then of course inside here we're going to have one more dimension, which is going to have a flex item center, and the gap in the x in the left and right direction should be 2. And width, of course I'm gonna fix the width, entire width as 120 pixels. Right now, to bring this volume icon, you might notice here, if I click this, it's displaying different icon, right? So just like the same way what we did for our icon, so we have to do the same thing for our volume icon also. Let's go here, and right after here, const volume icon is equals to, initially it's going to be true. If it is plain, that means if it is true, then what I have to do is I have to display high speaker X mark, right? If not, I just need to say high speaker wave, right? Then at the end, right over here, I have to bring that volume options. So let's go here and bring that volume option. Volume, let's load the volume component, volume icon. Here, size, of course, it's going to be 25. And on click, whenever I'm clicking it, I'm just going to so far call an empty function. And for this class name, which is going to be exactly the same thing what we used for this, I'm gonna copy and paste it, save these changes. Now you should get that volume icon over here, right? Initially it's showing X mark because it is assumed that it's muted, so that's the reason it's showing that, because we hard coded it over here as true, because later we need to change it to the states. We'll do that later. And now I have to bring this slider, right? So in order to bring that slider, I'm going to use the radix slider. So go ahead and search for radix slider. If you search for that, slider radix primitives, yep, this is the one that we are using in this project, right? So all you have to do is to go ahead and install this. So in this case, I'm just going to shut down my application, and I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to install that npm install at radix UI react slider, so which is going to add that. Then I'm going to run my application, npm run dev, which one more time it's going to run our application. And please make sure that you have refreshed your application, right? So this is how you need to bring your radix slider and everything. So now let's go ahead and design a custom component for our volume slider. So what I'm going to do is, inside the components folder, I'm going to create a new component called volume slider.tsx. Okay, and please make sure this as a client side component, use client and sfc, which is going to be volume slider, right? And let's bring a division, and I'm going to say volume slider initially, and I'm going to bring that volume slider right after here, volume slider, save these changes, right? That should bring the, click it, So it will load, and you can see we are getting the volume slide over here because that's the text which I'm loading, right? So we have to load exactly the same way how it's been loaded up over here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this import statement and I'm going to import it over here, and I'm going to make this as radix slider, right? And then I'm going to delete this. So we need the root element and we need the track element, then we need the range, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and let's import all those things. It's going to return. So I'm going to use the radix slider dot root. All right, so this root is going to have a class name, which is going to be a relative, then flex item center and select none, okay, and touch none, and width, of course, it should be full, and height is going to be 10. That's a root element height, right? And inside this root, I'm going to bring the radix slider dot track. Okay, this track, of course, it's going to have a class name which is going to be bg neutral 400. That's the that track background color. You can see if I reduce it, you can see some of the background color, right? That's the thing. And then right after here, I should make this as 600, a little bit darker. Then it should be relative and it should grow, and rounded, of course, it's going to be full, and height, of course, it's going to be a very specific height. The track should be 3 pixels, not more than that. View verb wrap, and now currently you can't see anything. I can see that the track player over here, and right at the top of it, right after this track, or it should be inside, I need to bring the range. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the radix slider dot range, which is going to be your self-closing tag, right? Inside here I'm going to bring the class name, and it's going to be absolute on top of it, and bg emerald 600 or 500, all right? And it should be rounded full, and height is also should be full. Currently you can't see that layer over here because we don't have any default value for your root elements or anything else. So right after here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix the value for currently, which is going to be 5 or something, right? Then now you can see, let me make it 50 so that you can see it so clear. You can see now we have the 50% of the volume, right? So then right after here, default value, it should be always the 100%, or if you wish to keep it 70%, you can type it 70, right? And then what I'm going to do is on value change, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this custom handle change function, which we haven't created it, and the maximum value should be 1, and the step value should be 0.1, and the area label should be volume, right? So let's go ahead and create this handle on change. So here const handle change, it's going to be a callback function, and this function is going to get the new value, which is going to be a type of number array. So inside this function, the volume value should be it should be coming from our this player content over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a props for this volume slider. So let's go ahead and create a volume props. So interface volume slider props, open it, and it's going to return the volume value. So value, which is going to be a number, right? Then it's going to have the on change event, which is going to be having the value as number and void. It should return the void, and it should be attached over here colon react dot functional component, and use this volume slider props, and let's export it value, and you should get the on change. So every time now you have the value. So here, so whenever you're getting the new value as an array, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to call this on change. If I do have the on change, then I'm gonna supply the value, new value of 0th index, right? That's the thing that we are trying to do over here. So save this changes, right? And for this, instead of hard coding the value, I'm going to supply this, instead of 50, I'm going to supply the value prop, which I'm going to send it from the player content in, and by default it should have, because we are setting it as an optional prop, by default it should have the 100% volume. Now you should not get that error issue. If I save this, now you should get the 100% volume, which is displaying over here. So let's get back to the player content, and the volume should be always based on our state value. So what I'm going to do is, so here, over here, for instance, if I'm supplying the value was 50, and if I'm supplying the on change function, and I'm going to call the function over here, and here I just need to keep it as an empty. For this, inside this on change, every time I'm going to supply the value in it, and I'm going to change that value, and I'm going to update the value in the state. If I save this changes, now we should get if I refresh it, I think it's taking the default value. Okay, so now if I click this, if I change this to 5, inside the volume slider, value, of course it should be a number, and it's an optional, and by default we are setting the value as to 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's check it out. Let's check it out. Let's see. What I need to do is, I'm going to create a state for this. So for this, these two, I'm going to create a state first. So let's create a state. Use state snippet is playing, which means if it is already playing, then of course it should be, by default it should be false. And use state snippet volume, and by default I'm going to set the volume as 1. Okay, and this should be based on is playing state, and this should be volume. Only if the volume should be equals to 0, then it should display the X mark, right? So that's what this is all about. All right, so now what I have to do is, we need to change these values. The volume value should be changed based on this state. So I'm going to supply the volume, and I'm going to supply on change. Every time whenever this changing, I'm just going to get that value, and I'm going to set the volume with that value. Save these changes. Now you should see this slider is working perfectly as it's supposed to be, because every time whenever I'm changing the slider, the value gets updated. So this state will get updated, and that state value will be passed over here, and it will be displayed over there, right? Cool. So that's looking perfectly fine. So volume is working perfectly fine now. So now all we have to do is to go ahead and fix all these playing controls, and that's what we are going to do next. All right then, so now what we have to do is to, let's go ahead and start writing the controls for this playing previous, on, playing next. So let's go ahead and start writing the steps for that. So right after here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function const on play next. That's the function which I'm trying to create right now. Open it. It's a callback function. So if the player, so I do have the player object, if the player IDs dot length, if the player IDs dot length is equals to 0, right, then is that the case, then what I need to do, I need to return. right? Because there is no list of songs there, so I don't need to move back and forth, so I need to return it. If not, what I need to do, I need to get the current index. So current const current index, it's equals to from the player dot ids dot find the index. So I'm going to find the index of, I'm going to get this callback function, and I'm going to get the ID from that one after another, and that ID should be equals to player dot active ID. So at somewhere inside the list of the songs, the ID should match any one of that, the active ID should match any one of the IDs in that list of songs. So we need to figure it out. Let's say currently I am over here. This is the second song. In this list of songs, this particular song ID is in the second index. So I need to get that index, which means 0 and 1. So now if I click next, I can go one more index. If I click next, I need to come back to the very first index. So that's the reason we are trying to figure it out what index we are right now. So I can get that by using this find index function. And right after here, I need to load the next song ID. So const next song is equals to from the player dot IDs. That's an array. So I'm gonna get that current index plus 1 because we need to move to the next index, right? So if there is no next song, right? If not next song, then return player dot set ID, open it, then player dot IDs. So we need to set the first index of the song. So once you reach that end, there is no index to move on. So we need to set the very first index. So that's what we are doing over here, right? So at the end, what I need to do, so player dot set ID as next song, right? Oops, not next, it should be next song. Please be very careful while you are typing this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to exactly copy and paste this. I'm going to copy this. So what is this? This is the playing next song controller. And now what we are going to do, we are going to say play previous song controller, right? So let me hide this, and here I'm going to paste this, and I'm going to say on play, not next. This time it's going to be previous, right? So, all right. And now we do have this player ID. If it is equals to return 0, so then we need to find out the current index exactly. Instead of next song, I'm going to replace all these identical, as I'm going to replace this to previous song, right? And from the player.id, instead of increasing it, I need to reduce it. So if there is no previous song, of course we are going to set the last, because if you're if you are at the last one, you need to go for the first index. If you're in the first index, you should go the end of the index. So what I'm going to do is, instead of this current index, from the player, I'm going to access the IDs, entire IDs, then I'm going to get the entire length. I'm going to say the length minus 1. So that will take me to the end of the list. All right. So that's how you need to move the previous. Otherwise, oops. So this is supposed to be changed over here. So player dot IDs dot length minus 1. So if there is no previous song, this is how you need to change your oh, my bad. So cut this, made a silly mistake. Let me cut it out. Instead of loading the 0th index inside this ID, I need to do this player IDs dot length minus 1. If it is 3, what is the last index? So if it is the entire count is 3, then 0, 1, 2. So index should be 2. So that's what we are doing over here, right? My bad, extremely sorry for that, right? So this is what happens whenever you're copying and pasting. It's better to always type it completely from the ground, right? So now what I need to do is, so every time whenever I click this back option, I need to call what function? I need to call the previous. This should be on play previous. and this should be on play next. Save these changes. Now let's check it out. If I click this, it should load the next song. If I click this one more time, it should load the very first song. If I click this previous one, it should load the end of the song. Look at that. So we successfully implemented the moving back and forward option, which is working perfectly and smoothly. Now all we have to do, go ahead and bring that main functionality of playing these songs. So that's what we are going to do next. All right then, so now what we have to do is we have to play this song. That's the most important thing that we have to do in this player component, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this our application, and I need to import a very specific package called npm install. Let me clear this out, and you can see it over here, npm install use underscore sound. So if you search for use sound over here, use underscore sound, that's an npm package that we are going to use. So please go ahead and take your time and try to understand how the use sound is working and figure it out, how they're using, how they are playing, and all those things you can find out from here by reading all these notes which is given in this documentation, right? And let me hit that and hit enter. That is going to take a couple of minutes. Okay, so now it's successfully downloaded, and I'm going to run my application one more time, npm run dev, and I'm going to, okay, it's loaded, and if I refresh this, it is going to be loaded now, right? Now what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to import that first. So where it is, right after, let me bring this to the top. I need to keep it clean. So these are the custom hooks, and this should be from the top, and this also, this import state, oops, these import statements also should be on the top over there. Fine, now that's looking good. And right after here, I'm gonna bring import, which is going to be use sound from use hyphen sound. Okay, so basically this is the package. So basically this package is showing some issues. So later I will show you, this is just a type error. Later I will show you how to fix this type error, because before deploying this this project on the production mode, we need to fix this, right? So what we have to do is, so we have to, currently for the time being there is no issue, but for production we have to generate the custom types for this use sound, then we have to push it. Later I will show you how to do that. Right now let me save these changes, so there is no issues in this, right? So far everything will work perfectly, except this is just a type error, so ignore that. Anyway, we will fix that later on. And then, right, let me scroll after here. So this is the place. Right after here, this is the place where we are going to have the controls for playing the song, right? So here I'm just going to create a const, and which is going to be the use sound hook, open it, right? And I'm going to supply the song URL into it, and it's going to have a list of objects, and this state is going to provide us the play. Then it's going to provide the object as pass, and as well as the sound object, right? It's going to give the sound object, right? Inside the song URL, I'm going to supply the volume, which is going to be our custom volume state. Then on play. So on play, this is the on play. So on play, I'm going to call this callback function, and I'm going to say set is playing as true, because it is playing, right? Then on end, whenever it's ended, on end, okay, on end, I'm going to call this callback function, and I'm going to say open it, set is playing as false, and on play next, I'm going to call this on play next function, which is successfully on pass, PAUSE, on pass. I'm going to call this, these are the events that we are calling. Whenever the events have been triggered, we are calling a callback function, and I'm going to make those actions respectively based on that events being triggered, right? Then at the end, we need to fix the format. So format, of course, it's going to be format, which is going to be array, and it by default it should support the mp3 format. Then I'm going to have the use effect hook to re-render the actions based on these events, right? So we're going to have this use effect, and I'm going to supply this sound instance which we get from here, and inside this I'm going to return a callback function, right? And I just need to say sound dot unload, right? Because initially once if you wish to play this song, once the component it's been started, like once you click this, if you wish to start playing this song, you can, all you have to do is to sound dot play option. That's how you can start playing these songs initially. Once the components been loaded, the URL has been loaded, you can start playing the songs, right? If you don't want that, you can just simply hide this. You just have to hit this option to play. If you click it, it will start, it will bring the component. If you click here, and it will start loading the song, right? I'm just going to play initially because that's how we always do expect, right? So I'm just going to do that. Then right after here, I need to create a function to handle the play and pause event. So in order to do that, const handle play, it's going to be a callback function. And inside here, I'm just going to say if is not is playing. If it is not playing, then I just need to say play it, right? If it is playing else, I just need to pass it. That's the event which we have collected from here, right? So that's completely done. Then I have to handle this mute also. So const toggle mute, which is going to be a callback function, open it. And if the volume is equals to 0, then what I need to do, set the volume level to 1, else set the volume level to 0. That's what we need to do. Now all I have to do is to go ahead and call this handle play and the toggle mute in the respective events. So this is the place. So I'm just going to handle play, and over here also I'm just going to say handle play, and for this volume icon I'm just going to say toggle mute. Save the changes. All right. So now once the song is successfully loaded, okay, nothing is happening. Let me refresh it. Okay, so if I click this, it's taking some time to load the song. There is no issue at all. If I click this, it should start playing, but it's not playing. I think I called that function properly. Desktop controller, and for this icon I called the handle play, and it should come over here. Is there any error in the console? Yep, no, there is no issues in the control at all. Wait a minute, it's not even updating the state. Where is the mistake? It might be, if there is a changes in the state, then it should update this state, right? what might be the issue. So I'm not sure why it is not working. I think maybe it's because of a lot of outdated packages that we do have. See, once by the time when we're starting it, and right now we're having a lot of outdated packages. Maybe you also might be ran into the same issue at that point when you're working with this. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this next, and I'm going to delete this node modules, and I'm going to delete this package.log.json file. So right click and let's delete those things. All right. So here, what I'm going to do is clear. So if you want to check this, write npm outdated, hit the enter. So that's going to give you all the outdated packages. And if you click npm upgrade, so that is going to upgrade all these outdated packages, right? So that's what we are going to do now. So I'm just going to hit the command and I'm going to pause the video. Once it's successfully done, I'm going to get back to you back. All right, then it took me a while to update all these packages. Right now, once it took me a long time to upgrade all this, but now once I hit the npm outdated, now you can see it's installed all the updated packages for this. And now all I have to do is to npm run dev. Right, so now it's starting it up, it's loading, and let me say localhost 3000. Right, it's loading. Yep. So we do have this type error, so let's figure it out, the type error later, why it is happening. Okay, so now the song, everything is being loaded, and you can see the data is being loaded now. And if I click play this song, nothing is happening. It's not bringing my song here. Why? If I get back to the favorites, but from here it's loading. Look at that. See, it's playing. It's working fine, right? It's working. So if I move on to the next song, and if you see, it's automatically start playing the next song. And if you can adjust the songs over here, so far we successfully fixed the issue. The reason is because a lot of outdated packages, right? But when I get back over here, and if I try to load this song, or this song, if I click this is not happening. The reason is because if I get back to the home, I think I added that, but still it's not playing. Where it is, apps, favorites, component, inside the page content, this is the same thing that we added, right? Use onPlay songs. I think I added the same thing on my home also, page component over here, song item. So I supplied that to my song item. Now the reason why it's not playing in the song item, it's because inside the play button we haven't supplied that ID. So let me open that song item, and inside this play button, so this is the play button divisions. For this division we haven't added that on click event. So on click, call a callback function, and on click we have this hook, we have this property which is coming from here. That property needs to supply the data.id. That's the reason it's not working over there. So now it should work. If I click this, you can see it's loading. So the reason now the song is not playing, because few songs are very it takes some time to load from the network. But if I click this song, see, still that song, it's been loading. That's the reason. Let me anyway refresh this. Okay, so now let me click this one. See, few songs are loading instantly because they are very lightweight, but few songs are very heavy, and it's taking some time to load, right? So which means everything is working perfectly as we expected. So now let's go ahead and adjust the height of this player based on the player. It's need to, because now you can see I can't see my that logout button. If the player is active, I can't see my logout button. So the entire UI needs to adjust based on this height. If the song is playing, the UI needs to adjust it automatically. So that's what we are going to do next. All right then, so in order to adjust this player height according to the height what we are using in our player, so base this, I think this is 80 pixels because we fixed the height as H20. So if I click this, you can see it's showing 80 at the bottom right corner. It's showing 80 because it's taking the 80 pixels of the height. So what I'm going to do is I'm going inside the main container, and if I scroll all the way to the top, and for this division we are already using this TW merge, right? So for this, I'm gonna get the user hook over here. Const player is equals to use player hook. Get that hook, and if there is the player ID, if the player ID is active over here, right after here, the player dot active ID, if it is say so, then what I need to do is I need to increase the height. So height, I need to adjust the height over here. So h hyphen custom square bracket, use the square bracket to type your custom height. So use the calc function to calculate your height. Inside here, out of 100% of height, I'm gonna reduce the 80 pixels, right? Let's make sure the height perfectly where it is. This is the division, this is the entire division. Yep, here it is. So that, oops, this is the parent division. This parent division is taking 96 pixels, so it is supposed to be, let's use the 80 pixel and let's see what's it's happening, right? So okay, now we can see it's perfectly added up over here. You can see that. Now let me refresh it. It's loading. Okay, so now if I click here and it's loading that song, you can see the player is adjusted perfectly as it's supposed to be. So that's what we are trying to do over here, right? Cool. Right then, so now our songs is successfully playing. Now all we have to do is to fix this issue. So inside our player content, we are getting this type error, because this type error is not a problem on our local, but when it's moving on to the production, of course it's going to be a very huge problem for us. So in order to fix this, after a long search, I figured out a solution from an online Git community. So over here, what I have to do is and I'm just going to create a new folder over here. What I'm going to do is in the root directory, I'm going to create a new folder called generated types, GENERATED, generated underscore types, right? This is the custom generated types for our use sound. And let's get back into the tsconfig.json. Go into your tsconfig.json. Inside the tsconfig, under the path section, right after here, for this use sound package, okay, you should instruct this to look after this folder name /generated types /. For the use sound, always use this custom generated types package. So inside the generated types, now what you have to do is get back to your node modules and try to find out your use sound package which you are installed. I think here it is. Under the dist folder, I have to copy these two files, copy, and I have to paste it inside my generated types file. Paste it, right? So now you should see that issue, it's been fixed, right? Due to some reason, use sound hook, it's not taking that types defaultly from our node module. So we are customizedly copying and giving that index.ts into and put it into the use sound to fix that issue. And now that issue will be resolved. And if you shut it down and rerun it, because we configured our tsconfig.json, rerun your entire project and refresh it, and please make sure the entire project is running perfectly without any issues. So now it's refreshing. I hope there will be no issue, and it's compiled successfully and it's been successfully loaded. So far there is no issues at all, and I have my user data as well as. And now if I click this song, and it's started playing, and the volume controls and everything working perfectly fine. If I click mute, it's muted, and if I click pause, it's paused, and if I click next, it started moving on to the next song. And this song is taking too long to load. That's the reason it's having this issue, right? And you can see the song is played once the song is successfully loaded, and it started playing that, right? So this is how we successfully finished the player functionality for our Spotify clone. So far we successfully finished the most important stuff that we needed for this project, right? So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you're having any questions or anything, please drop your questions in the comment section, and I'm happy to help you. And in the next session, we are going to build our Stripe payment gateway to add the membership role and to manage the membership role. And once we finish that, and we are going to deploy this project, and that's all that we have to do in this project, right? All right, I'll see you all in the next session.